is Y News with Angelo Castro III, William Theo, and Darlene Basingan.
Let me just tell everybody that I have declared martial law for Mindanao.
Good evening. The Supreme Court has upheld President Rodrigo Duterte's Proclamation 216, which placed the entire Mindanao under martial law since May 23. Petitioners, however, see this as a dangerous precedent. Rodrigo Mendoza will tell us why.
The Supreme Court upheld President Rodrigo Duterte's martial law declaration in Mindanao. 11 justices voted to dismiss the 3 petitions against Proclamation 216, which placed Mindanao under martial law since May. 3 justices wanted to limit the scope of the martial law, while 1 justice said the President's declaration has no factual basis.
The court dismissed the petitions by a vote of 11 of its members. 3 members voted to partially grant the petitions, and 1 member voted to grant the petitions.
The full text of the decision will be released tomorrow, just in time for the deadline set by the Constitution. Solicitor General Jose Calida welcomes the court's decision as it allows the President to protect the people. He says the ruling shows the court is one with President Duterte in protecting the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Malacanang says that with the SC upholding the martial law, the whole government now stands united against the enemy. Petitioners were disappointed, saying the decision could be used to extend the duration and broaden the scope of martial law.
Tila nagiging mas madali ngayon na ideklara ang martial law sa buong Pilipinas kung ganito lang ang pamantayan na masusunod. Nagiging mas malakas ngayon ang loob ng mga militarista sa loob ng Duterte administration. Baka ngayon hilingin nila na i-extend pa yung martial law beyond 60 days.
They will be filing a motion to convince the court to reconsider its decision.
We are asking the Supreme Court to really take a second look in this case para naman mas maprotektahan pa yung mamamayan at hindi maabuso yung paggamit ng martial law powers.
Rodrigo Mendoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Department of National Defense is glad with the decision of the Supreme Court, or SC, in favor of the declaration of martial law in Mindanao. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana says the proclamation has legal basis, which only aims to suppress the terrorists in Mindanao, particularly in Marawi City. Lorenzana says he has no recommendation yet on whether or not to extend martial law beyond 60 days.
Personally, I'm happy that the Supreme Court may find it has legal basis so that we can continue doing our job properly until the end of martial law, which is 23 July.
Meanwhile, PNP Chief Ronald De La Rosa is in favor of extending the military rule in the region to pave the way for the rehabilitation of Marawi City.
So kahapon na pag-usapan namin, we are inclined to recommend to the President na kung pwede, the way things are going doon ngayon na hindi pa talagang totally na stabilize yung sitwasyon, maganda sana i-extend.
Petitioners of martial law are warning of a possible imposition of authoritarian rule by President Rodrigo Duterte following the decision of the Supreme Court. Joyce Balancho will tell us why.
Petitioners expressed dismay over the High Court's decision upholding military rule in Mindanao. Congressman Antonio Tino says the Supreme Court failed to do its mandate to protect the country from possible abuse of power of the president, in this case, his declaration of martial law, which they believe has no basis.
So ang pangamba natin ngayon dahil sa decision na ito ay wala nang hadlang. No? Una, para sa pag-extend pa ng martial law sa Mindanao. Pangalawa, yung paglawak pa ng saklaw. Maaring hindi na lang sa Mindanao.
Gabriela Women's Party Representative Arlene Brosa says this gave the go signal to the military to continue launching of aerial strikes, indiscriminate firing, and the rape of civilians in Mindanao. This will be a dark era for women because martial law only brings destruction and military-sponsored right violations in Mindanao. Akbayan Representative Tom Villarin says the SC paved the way for President Duterte to impose authoritarian rule throughout the country through declaring drug-induced nationwide rebellion of terror groups. Magdalo Party List Representative Gary Alejano, on the other hand, respects the decision of the Supreme Court but maintains Maute Group can be suppressed even without a declaration of martial law. Another petitioner, Ifugao Representative Teddy Bagilat, explains he will study first the reasons behind the SC decision before coming up with his comment. Nonetheless, he will continue to oppose the declaration and the possible extension or expansion of military rule. While he is also one of the main petitioners, Congressman Edsel Lagman has not yet issued a statement on the matter. On the side, some lawmakers laud the SC decision, saying the declaration is within the President's mandate as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
So the declaration of the President on martial law for Mindanao, I think vindicated by this present event that's happening now.
Dapat naman talaga na desisyonan favorably ng Supreme Court yun dahil nakikita naman ninyo ang laking kaguluhan dun sa Marawi, more than 30 days na nga. In fact, pag hindi pa natapos yun, baka naman I'm not speaking on behalf of the executive branch, pero baka kailangan pa nga i-extend kung hindi pa matapos yung problema sa Marawi.
Joyce Balancio, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Meanwhile, medicines, vitamin supplies, and water are the primary aid the Department of Health, or DOH, sends to crisis-affected areas in Mindanao. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The Department of Health continues to send medical aid to ailing evacuees in Marawi City. According to DOH, cough and colds and skin diseases are the common health problems in evacuation centers. For now, the DOH says it has sufficient fund for the medical needs of evacuees in the region.
Ang nagugol ng Department of Health ay umabot na sa 52 million. Ang mga pinagtutuunan namin kasi ng gastos ay to make sure may malinis silang tubig at saka yung sanitary facilities nila.
Aside from medicines, the DOH also distributes therapeutic food to malnourished children. Health authorities are also monitoring the taking of laxatives and vaccines of children. The DOH is also identifying children aged 5 and below, as they are the ones who got easily sick. Meanwhile, evacuees who experience stroke and severe dehydration are immediately brought to hospitals for treatment. The DOH is also focusing on environmental sanitation, especially since there is only limited supply of water in temporary shelters. The evacuees are also being taught of proper disposal of waste so they could avoid contracting disease. Health authorities have already provided psychosocial debriefing to over 1,000 evacuees who have suffered from post-traumatic stress disorders. With the help of local government officials, the DOH is now completing the plan for the transfer of the evacuees to permanent shelters. DOH also clarifies that the reported 32 individuals who died in hospitals are due to other reasons and not because of contracting illnesses in evacuation centers. Although many have already returned to their relatives and others have transferred to other provinces, many are still staying at evacuation centers.
Mga between 17,000 to 18,000 na nasa evacuation center.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
And member agencies of the Task Force Bangon Marawi show force in their first emergency meeting today. Leia Ilagan tells us why.
The Task Force Bangon Marawi is now planning for the speedy recovery and rehabilitation of Marawi City. Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana says almost all members of Task Force Bangon Marawi from different government agencies attended their first emergency meeting.
I'm very happy to announce that we covered a lot of things, and every department of the government involved in this recovery are very enthusiastic in going in there and to repair Marawi.
Lorenzana adds that they will send representatives from different government agencies to do the necessary assessment of the area.
Yung assessment mag-umpisa pa lang next week, Mga isang linggo yan, yung tinatawag nating post-conflict needs assessment. We will be able to get Ballpark figure, yung estimate lang muna kung anong mga damages so that we can already request for release of funds.
The Defense Secretary also confirmed that 90% of the affected areas are already cleared. They are now targeting to clear the remaining 10% before the State of the Nation address of President Rodrigo Duterte on July 24.
Yun ang gusto namin mangyari, pero we are leaving it to the ground commanders to do their pace. Hindi natin, we are not micromanaging the events there. Bahala yung mga ground commanders. But they have their own, pero kami mga guidance sa kanila kung anong gagawin nila.
Meanwhile, the latest count of casualties in the Marawi conflict reports that 39 civilians were killed, while 1,717 were rescued. 337 terrorists and 85 from the government troops were confirmed dead. 410 high-powered firearms were confiscated. Leia Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
National Democratic Front of the Philippines, or NEF, peace panels are set to return to the negotiating table in August. Nelmay Buhok explains why.
Government Chief Peace Negotiator Secretary Silvestre Bello III reveals the possible resumption of the 5th round of peace talks on the 3rd week of next month. But prior to the formal resumption in August, both sides agreed to hold informal talks this month. The primary agenda will be the socio-economic reform and the interim ceasefire.
Para maganda, this time we will have a good result. There will be an informal meeting between the panel. And the meeting may be in Asia or the Philippines.
According to Secretary Bello, if the informal talks succeed, the agenda will possibly be approved in the formal talks. However, the government peace panel will still insist to have an interim unilateral ceasefire.
Para to provide the talks nga with a conducive atmosphere. Para wala mo ng putukan, mamaya nagkapikunan, gano'n.
The 5th round of peace talks was suspended in the Netherlands due to continuous operations of the NPA against government troops on the ground. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
President Rodrigo Duterte has reappointed his 3 cabinet members bypassed by the Commission on Appointments. These are Health Secretary Pauline Jean Obial, Social Welfare Secretary Judy Tagiwalo, and Agrarian Reform Secretary Rafael Mariano. Malacanang has also released the ad interim appointment of Environment Secretary Roy Simatu. The Congress will resume its sessions on July 24, whereas they might uphold, reject, or postpone the appointments of the said cabinet secretaries.
Next on Y News. The Philippines and Indonesia launched joint border patrol against terrorism and extremism on common boundaries.
The Department of Transportation signs agreement with Germany on maritime transportation.
The Civil Service Commission reports significant improvements in the performances of government agencies.
Y News will be right back. The Philippines and Indonesia formally begin today the two countries' 31st Naval Border Coordinated Patrol. Leslie Longbuan tells us why.
The naval crew members joining the Philippine-Indonesia Coordinated Patrol or CORPAT 2017 have been formally presented earlier in Davao City. Today is the start of the naval exercises which aim to hone the skills of the two Southeast Asian nations' naval forces, especially in combating terrorism and extremism in common boundaries.
To strengthen the enforcement of laws governing offenses which undermine the security of either state in the border areas of cases arising therefrom.
The naval exercises will run for 7 days. It will include communication drill exercises like radio check, semaphore, flashing lights, and ship maneuvers. Eastern Mindanao Command says naval drills are important as there is an existing threat of terrorism and transnational crimes in the region.
This year, it is timely, the conduct of this coordinated patrol, because of the ongoing Marawi crisis we have. So this would also contribute in tightening the security among our borders.
On Thursday, the naval crew will have a stopover in Balut Island in Sarangani for a medical mission to be conducted by the military medical personnel. The coordinated patrol will end on July 12, wherein the closing ceremony will be held in Manado, Indonesia. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Department of Transportation and the German Federal Ministry of Transport and Digital Infrastructure has entered into an agreement on maritime transportation. Joe Anano explains why.
The Department of Transportation strengthened its ties with Germany by engaging in the creation of maritime transport programs with a European country. The two countries agreed to improve the situation at Philippine ports, the improvement of the maritime equipment of the Philippines, and the cooperation of the two countries in terms of business and trade through maritime transport. They also agreed to conduct research training and staff development on the maritime industry sector.
This is one golden opportunity where we shook hands and agreed to work together to enhance the maritime capability from sailing to training to research. We exchange resources, and it is, to our mind, a good start for a bolstered relationship, a relationship between the Republic of Germany and the Republic of the Philippines.
Aside from maritime transport, the German government has also expressed interest in helping the Philippines improve its railway transport system, as well as the services of its airport. Last March, Transport Secretary Arthur Tugade met with several businessmen in Germany to further encourage more foreign investments in the country and to gather ideas on how to fix the Philippine transport system and traffic management scheme in the Philippines. Germany is among the countries in the world with the best public transport system. After the signing, DOTR officials and delegates of the Ministry of Transportation of Germany conducted a bilateral meeting anew to discuss details of the projects and programs the two countries are set to create. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, conducted an inspection of the Mactan Channel, particularly in the oceans of Cebu City. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
The Philippine Coast Guard, or PCG, has intensified its monitoring in the waters of Cebu City, alongside the ongoing ASEAN senior officials meetings being attended by about 300 foreign delegates. The Task Unit Maritime, composed of personnel from the PCG Cebu, Philippine Navy, Maritime Police, Ports Authority, and Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, conducts tighter monitoring in the area.
Ang binabantayan namin, sir, mostly is tapat ng CIP kasi yun yung pinakatapat ng Radisson natin na venue ng meeting ng mga delegates ng ASEAN.
Authorities are inspecting each boat passing and entering the area.
So pag may dumaan dyan, sir, na pag ginagahinalaan natin ng mga threat para dun sa mga delegates, pinupuntahan ng tropa yan, sir.
The PCG says it has not received any direct threats to security in the city.
Continuous pa rin yung monitoring natin tsaka yung security natin.
The Maritime Unit has been monitoring the venues 24 hours a day, 7 times a week, to ensure the safety of delegates until the conclusion of the ASEAN meetings on Friday. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Group, or PDEA, used thermolysis in destroying over 130 million pesos worth of illegal drugs. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
The Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, wants to make sure that all seized illegal drugs will no longer be recycled. For this reason, the agency used thermal decomposition or chemical decomposition caused by high degree of temperature in destroying 44 kilograms of shabu and 10 grams of marijuana today.
Ang end product po nito is actually ashes. After na destruction, it will be tested by our chemists if it is really destroyed.
PDEA assures that the process is safe to humans and animals within the vicinity of the machine.
Yung pong thermal destruction equipment, meron po yung scrubber para ma-out niya yung odor. So wala kayong maaamoy or wala kayong mai-inhale in regards to dangerous drugs.
The total worth of the destroyed substances is 134 million pesos. They were seized during the series of anti-illegal drugs operation of the agency. According to PIDEA, they are now focusing on every barangay in the country to lessen the demand of illegal drugs.
Kahit saan pagaling ang droga, whether niluto sa Shabu Lab or smuggled or transshipped through the Philippines, wala pong ibang babagsakan ito kung hindi ang barangay.
Based on the latest data of the agency, more than 20,000 or 47.6% are affected by illegal drugs out of the 43,026 barangays in the country. Nevertheless, the agency says the supply of illegal drugs has dropped during the first year of the Duterte administration.
Based on figures, reduced at least 15% of drug supply and 33% in terms of the market for dangerous drugs. Ito'y batay po sa mga nahuling personalities na kumpiskan droga.
Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
PNP Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa plans to remove members of the PNP Special Action Force from the new Bilibid prisons. Monhok Son explains why.
I have to admit that because of their familiarity, they stayed there already for more than 6 months. Masyado matagal eh. Ang aming plano dito is only about 3 months to avoid familiarity. But apparently, because of the big amount of money, some medyo natitaint.
This was the admission of Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre regarding the resurgence of illegal drug trade inside the new Bilibid prisons. This is the reason why Philippine National Police Chief Ronald de la Rosa is now considering to pull out the members of the PNP Special Action Force or SAF from the National Penitentiary. PNP Chief de la Rosa says he does not want the image of SAF members be tainted. That's why he is thinking to make a decision.
Gusto ko palitan na buo. Palitan na buo dahil sila rin ang kuwan nila doon, ang kanilang apprehension is baka masisira lang kami dito, sir. Kung nandito kami tapos magpapatuloy yung drug trade na yan dahil hindi namin makukontrol, baka masisira lang kami dito. You better relieve us here. Yan ang pag-iusap nila.
De la Rosa says he will talk to the director of SAF about the plan. The leader of SAF has yet to reply on UNTV News request for comment regarding the issue. Monhok Son, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Meanwhile, President Rodrigo Duterte promises to intensify the capacity of the Philippine Air Force alongside the unit's 70th anniversary celebration. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte graced the 70th anniversary celebration of the Philippine Air Force today. Due to the heavy downpour, the Philippine Air Force postponed its Air Force assets exhibition, such as the high-speed opener pass of SF-260 and flyby of other air assets. The President delivered his speech as written so as to prevent the military troops from catching colds while in formation. In his speech, the Chief Executive said he will prioritize the upgrading of the Philippine Air Force capacity through acquiring attack and combat utility vehicles and unmanned utility vehicles.
I assure you that we will build on our past gains to further strengthen the Philippine Air Force. We will continue the ongoing modernization program by procuring additional attack and combat utility vehicles and unmanned aerial vehicles or UAVs to complement our already existing air assets.
He also asked the personnel of the Air Force to keep its active role in neutralizing terrorists in Marawi City and cooperate in the ongoing clearing and rehabilitation efforts.
As we wrap up in our campaign to liberate Marawi, I am confident that the Philippine Air Force will once again take an active role in the rebuilding of the city and uplifting the spirit of those affected by the conflict.
Among the highlights of the program is the presentation of Certificate of Complete Delivery of FA-50PH Lead-In Fighter Trainer aircrafts. The Philippine Air Force now has 12 FA-50PH aircrafts. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Clark, Pampanga.
The Bureau of Fire Protection assures that the country has enough number of fire trucks. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
In the 145 cities and over 1,000 municipalities in the country, 351 municipalities don't have its own fire truck based on the data of the Bureau of Fire Protection. Under the law, each local government unit has to have one fire truck. However, BFP spokesperson Ian Manalo says the public has nothing to worry about as these places without fire trucks can still be reached in case of fire emergencies.
Yung mga municipalities na talagang malalayo naman sa mas less ang chances na magkaroon ng sunog. I-group namin sila. Kina-cluster namin sila sa mga malalapit na municipalities na meron.
Manalo adds if 1:1 ratio will be followed, the excess in the total number of fire trucks in the cities alone would suffice for the municipalities without such. However, he explains that places with more chances of fire incidents should have more than one fire truck.
Sa cities, mas madalas ang sunog namin as compared to the far-flung municipalities, averaging from 5 to 10 per day. So, hindi pwedeng isa lang.
Although BFP believes that the number of fire trucks is still sufficient, it says additional fire trucks are still necessary.
Nagbabago po ang panahon, dumadami ang populasyon na kailangan din naman natin tugunan. Hindi porke sapat na, titigil na kami.
24 units of Rosenbauer fire trucks from Austria remain stuck in Batangas and still could not be distributed because of a petition filed before the Supreme Court. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Civil Service Commission has announced improvements in the performances of government agencies, especially on how they address complaints in their respective services. Ray Pelayo explains why.
The Civil Service Commission or CSC celebrates a decade of the implementation of the Anti-Red Tape Act of 2007. In line with this, CSC held an anti-red tape caravan wherein the services of government agencies like DTI, GSIS, Pag-ibig, PSA, SSS, PhilHealth and DFA were made available to the public. The said caravan is also part of the agency's campaign against red tape.
Yun yung isa sa mga inunang sinabi ng ating Pangulo. Ayaw niyang mag-antay ang mga taong bayan para lang makapag-avail ng serbisyo para sa kanila.
CSC reports that the current resolution rate or how government agencies address complaints has reached 95% as compared to the previous 87%.
Ang resolution rate namin, ang ibig namin sabihin, natapos, merong aksyon, at may resulta at yung tao ay bumalik sa amin at nagsabi maraming salamat.
The Social Security System or SSS and the Land Transportation Office or LTO are the agencies that receive the most number of the complaints in their services. The most common complaint is delay in the process of delivering their services. But CSC argues that the number of clients they serve should be considered, unlike SSS which has 31 million. The agency is now planning to hire more personnel to strengthen their workforce. CSC says there are agencies that failed the ratings in the past but received the seal of excellence now, such as GSIS.
Now, there are a number of their branch offices, they have already garnered a 5-star rating.
CSC adds that automation contributed to hasten an agency's service, especially in LTO.
That's very good because nawawala yung face-to-face transaction, which is one of the causes of fixing and graft and corruption in government.
CSC said the Citizens Hotline 888 and Complaint Center that opens 24 hours a day to serve the public has helped a lot to improve the services of most government agencies. Ray Pelayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
The Department of Labor and Employment believes that despite some setbacks, they were able to achieve significant accomplishments during the first year of the Duterte administration. Nel Maribuhok tells us why.
Department of Labor and Employment Secretary Silvestre Bello III admits that there are issues they are yet resolved in the past year. These include the issue on contractualization as they are finding it hard to monitor the companies who have committed violations against the labor laws. According to the Secretary, at present they only have 500 labor compliance inspectors and that they need an additional 2,500 manpower to effectively monitor the problems of contractualization. But despite this, Bello hopes that ENDO scheme will end soon.
Yung ENDO is a thing of the past. Definitely, ENDO is going to or has already ended. Why? Because management and employers realize that this is unlawful.
On the other hand, the repatriation of overseas Filipino workers put a good mark on DOLE's accomplishments as 16,000 from the total of 19,000 stranded Filipino migrant workers were sent home. Bello also says that DOLE saw a 1.7% decline of the unemployment rate and an almost 1% drop of underemployment in the past year. The DOLE plans to push what it calls as the IDOL, which will serve as passport and overseas employment certificate of the OFWs.
Maybe given another 6 months, we are trying to adopt a system that this IDOL can serve as their passport.
The Secretary adds that the department also supports the establishments of OFW Bank and the Department of OFW. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
Coming up, another AirAsia flight gets grounded after an apparent bird strike damaged its engine.
A reigning champion wins Washington's annual burger eating contest.
And a South Korean barista is gaining popularity online with his creation of famous paintings in coffee cups.
More from Y News after this break.
Over 100 hopefuls showcase their singing talents in an on-ground audition in Naga City. Leslie Longbowen tells us why.
The Wish 1075 continues to visit provinces to search for fresh talents for the newest amateur singing competition in the country, the Wish Covery. After the ground auditions in Bulacan and Mega Manila, Wish FM is now in Naga City. Among those who auditioned was Chris Molin. Despite his disability, he hopes to be given a chance in the music industry.
Siyempre po pag nakita ko yung advertisement ng ganito, parang nag-i-encourage siya sa akin, nagbibigay sa akin ng lakas para in-encourage ako sumali sa mga ganito. Parang bumabalik back in the days na sumali ako sa mga ganitong singing contests.
Melo Jane Cabrera even traveled from Calabanga, Camarines Sur to also join the audition.
Actually po, matagal ko na itong nakita sa YouTube. And then, parang gusto kong sumali. And then, may pagkakataon ko dito kaya I grabbed the opportunity po.
The hosts of Wish Covery are glad of the warm welcome shown by the Bicolanos.
First time ko dito sa Naga and nakaka-proud lahat ng Bicolanos kasi very talented sila. And hindi ko in-expect na ganito kadami ang mag-audition kasi unlike sa 4 naming pinuntahan, ito na yata ang pinakamarami. Very nakaka-wow.
This July, Wish Covery will also make rounds in provinces in Luzon. The grand winner in the contest will take home 2 million pesos, a brand new car, house and lot, and a singing contract. This is my last night with you. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Those are the reasons behind the news, July 4, 2017. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo.
And I'm Darlene Basingan because we need to know
we will always ask why. Thank you for watching Y News.